all the way to.
Yeah, so you're taking
Right, so
well,
it's
this-
all.
That's
So you're gonna need those
That's kind of, this is
7,000.
about.
Should be black sheep.
I'm okay.
Everything should be in black.
Bring one more.
The hospital black was Carl.
Ready?
Sorry.
I'd like to call to order the July regular meeting of the county board. Would you please join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everybody here this morning. Augie, would you take care of the roll call?
Sir. Good morning. Bruner.
Here.
Ellis.
Here.
Farnham.
Here.
Lawton.
Here.
Ludington.
Here.
Patrick.
Here.
And Voigt.
Here. The meeting minutes from June of 22. You've had the minutes. Is there a motion to approve those, or is there any corrections or additions needed? Phil moves. Andy seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. They do carry. Next, we have the claims against the county. Likewise, you've had those for several days. Are there any questions or clarifications that are needed? Hearing none, a motion to approve. Dan moves.
I have a question.
Oh, okay.
AJ Adams for 13,000 for beaver something, is that?
That's out of the road, I'm sorry, the ditch fund. Yeah,
what?
Drainage district.
right. It's not out of ours.
Okay, all right.
Well, it's out of
And the way
tax
it is,
money,
and the way it
but
is. Okay, I just wondered.
it's under
I
the
just
control of the
wondered.
drainage. That did catch our eyes, yeah.
Okay,
We don't actually approve those. That's approved by the people that we appoint people to the drainage district.
okay.
That's their
I
responsibility.
just noticed on the sheets.
Right.
Okay, all right. Would you go in with an excavator?
Anything else? Dan, did you want to make the motion then?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Dan moves, Phil seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It is carried. Next, we have claims against, or board member claims. Are there any questions about that? Hearing none, a motion to approve. Andy moves. Russ seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving those claims signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. They are approved. Okay, we've come to the portion of the meeting where we ask public for comments. We ask that you identify yourself and that you restrict your comments to approximately 5 minutes. Are there any comments this morning that you wish to address the board with? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Next item is to accept and approve FY21 audit. They will be in later to answer questions, but for the time being, this was kind of a rush job. There was a lot of new things that the federal and state government were asking for our audit. We went over a couple of items. Are there any questions as to the audit that you've received? I would like to note that the financial statement in addition shows that on the retirement funds that we are in very good shape, and then we show a surplus of about $980,000 between the safety tax and the general fund. So those are good things. Is there a motion to accept and approve the 21 budget audit? Lisa moves. Russ seconds. Further discussion. Augie, would you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Bruner.
Yes.
Ellis.
Yes.
Farnham.
Yes.
Lawton.
Yes.
Ludington.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda is ordinance providing for the issue of $10 million general obligation bonds, sales tax alternative revenue source, Series 2022 for the purchase of acquiring land for improving of site of and constructing and equipping all a jail facility and paying the cost of other capital improvements related to public safety in and for the county. The pledge of certain revenues to the payment of principal and interest on said bonds and the levy of direct annual sufficient tax to sufficient to pay such principal and interest if the pledged revenues are insufficient to make such payment, and the sale of bonds to Prospect Bank, Paris, Illinois. Discussion. I have some things, since nobody's jumping them. We were able to restructure the first couple of years, so we will have a savings and interest of approximately $158,451 over the life of the bonds. So there's a larger payment being made the first year. It doesn't increase the amount of money. Remember I said we could maybe take additional payment that first year? Well, we do not have to. It still remains at about $606,000, but the interest payment over the first several first couple of years drops, well, because of the increase that first year. We're going from $45,000 to $175,000 in principal that first year. And it makes a heck of a difference. And we still wind up paying the same amount. After the meeting the other day, we went back and forth on the phone to see how we might be able to structure to save money. And that's what we came up with. So, other questions or comments? Dan?
Does the levy have to be voted on by the public?
No. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a levy. It could be, we could commit state sales tax funds, we could commit any number of funds to that, or we could general levy funds.
Okay.
You know, obviously we don't want to do any of those things.
Right.
And you'll notice on some of the paperwork, it shows you after the bond payments how much is left. Basically, we're taking right about half of what we project as far as income from the safety tax. If that makes sense. Yes?
I think for the general public's information, this doesn't indicate that we have come up with anything firm on site or plan. It's just that we felt a sense of urgency to get this in place in anticipation that interest rates might rise.
You are absolutely correct. And what we're later on in the agenda or next, in order to answer some of those questions, we're going to move from phase 1 to phase 2. So the architectural drawings and construction people, construction managers can move in and identify costs more closely. We're going through the process of looking at sites. As you know, Vance is a site, and then we do have another site as an alternative to that one that we're looking at. So you are correct.
Well, there'll be a chance for the public to, like if we have a meeting for the public to come in, ask questions about what's going on. 'Cause
We've had those. We've had those. We've had two.
Yeah.
We've had 3 of them. So, I mean, they're welcome to come in at any meeting. In fact, we had a public hearing last month, and nobody came in.
Carl and I, we know we get a lot of questions around town. I just wondered,
Well, you need to start hanging out at different places.
well, how about the bar and grill maybe?
No, don't go to a bar.
What about
It'll
the
get worse there.
How about the old people's home somewhere?
Well, they might keep you, Dan.
Okay.
No, in seriousness. I mean, if we get to the point where we're kind of all narrowed into what we're doing,
Okay.
and I mean, we get closer, we've come a long way, and we found out some things won't work, and we found out some things that will. We've had contributions from the sheriff and his staff, and of course from professional staff. The bond issue, I'd like to hasten to say, is something that we can use in concert with maybe a USDA grant. I mean, we're not giving up on anything, and this is just an alternative, a solid alternative to what it might be. I'd like to also point out that the bond rate that we got was, they did an evaluation yesterday, is an extremely favorable bond issue at 4.35. And it is, we can pay off the bonds at any time and refinance at a lower rate without penalty.
Is that in this
It is.
agreement?
It's in final terms, and you should have a copy of final terms. Okay? And it is down on the page where it says optional redemption provision. And the bonds are subject to redemption prior to maturity at the option of the county on any date at a redemption price of par plus accrued interest. And I called the attorneys and I said, is that what that means? They go, yes.
Okay.
So, and this is something that, you know, it's been a long time coming, so I hope you folks are comfortable that we're heading the right direction. Like Lisa points out, you know, there's still more questions to answer, but we're moving forward in the process. And we're moving forward carefully and with due diligence. Motion? Andy moves. Dan seconds to issue the bond of $10 million. Further discussion. Augie, would you call the roll, please?
Brunner,
Yes.
Ellis,
Yes.
Farnum,
No.
Lawton,
Yes.
Luddington,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
and Voigt.
Yes. Okay, that does carry, and we'll proceed with that. Next, we have authorizing publishing of an RFQ for architectural services for the construction of the public safety facility. And what this actually means is to move on to getting down to the brass tacks on what we can afford and figure out what we need to do. And we hope to have this process done of selecting an architect sometime by September. It'll take a month to advertise, it'll take another month for them to look at the process and then go from there. Okay? Motion to approve going out for an RFQ for architectural services. Andy moves, Russ seconds. Sorry. Further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It does carry. Thank you, folks. Now we have the presentation, I guess it's an update of presentation of Coles County Regional Planning on the progress of the Edgar County strategic plan for the jail and the grant that we got, what was it, about 18 months ago? And it's all due in. By the way, I wanted to let you know, Kevin, that we will be getting, or you will be getting, all of the current architects' reports as you want, sometime within the week. Okay? So, you want, whoever's gonna talk, Kevin?
Bethany, will we take up the presentation?
So, essentially the purpose of us being here today is.
You're welcome to come up to the, if you are comfortable, you don't have to, but.
So on Friday, we're getting our strategic planning committee together for this project. It's been a few months since we've met with them, and we want to have them review all the work that we've done on the plan so far. And Mr. Voigt asked us to come here, give you guys a brief update in advance since y'all won't be in attendance at that meeting. The project's also passing hands from me to Maya Green. She's the community planner at Coles County now, so I wanted her to get a chance to meet everybody and hear about this project too. So, as you know, the purpose of the grant that brought me and now brought Maya on board with the project is to increase planning capacity in rural areas like this. So, while the plan has been focused on the jail that y'all are working on since the start, you're also gonna, in this plan, see emphasis on other things, all the facility needs in the whole county. We've talked with all of the villages and cities in the county. We've heard about what they need. We've heard about a lot of recreational and mental health and community facilities and that sort of thing too. What we've worked on a lot over the last year and a half has been the needs analysis assessment, which I've heard so much about that I feel super familiar with that part. That section of your plan is what I would consider to be in a polished and complete state. The sections that you maybe haven't heard as much update on recently would be the goals and recommendations, the conclusion. I know that the architects were in here recently to speak to you about their report that they're working on and the environmental stuff, so that's maybe not so new, but it's a little bit newer than the assessment portion for us. So what we're going to be speaking to our strategic planning committee on is finalizing that goals and recommendations section of the plan for you. It's gonna factor in all of the research that we've done, and that is ongoing. And we've come to a list of about 10 goals that we're going to present to the committee on Friday, and then we've got recommendations underneath those goals. What's gonna happen is they're going to review them along with us. We're gonna get any of their comments, input, changes, factor that all in. Maya will be able to polish that all up and make a nice complete plan, which the committee and us will then present to you for adoption. We've also got someone in our office working on the design portion of it, so it's gonna look a little better than a black and white Word document too by the time it gets around to you. So after that, you're essentially going to have your strategic plan. I want to say that, take it with a grain of salt, because you know, the first draft of anything is never the final draft, but we have an essentially outlined complete plan here that we're working on getting the nitpicky stuff into place for. So the next steps for us is the meeting on Friday, get the review of our final plan from the committee, factor in their work, and then if Coles County has any other things that they find missing that they want to put into place, we'll do that, and then we're going to present to you a final plan on public safety as well as the other public facility needs that we found with the committee. And we're also just here in case you had any questions in advance of that meeting too, but that's essentially what I have is going on today.
Questions?
The committee you're talking about, is that the group of people, local people that you had back when this all started that had input on?
Yeah, it's the
Right.
ultimate recipients. It's a
Right.
group of
Yeah, okay.
county officials and people from
Right.
communities to give input, yeah.
And that's this Friday, what time?
It's at 9 a.m.
And where's it gonna be out of?
It's at the highway department.
Okay, thanks. Other questions? Thank you. Okay,
I got, I guess, a question.
Please.
In some of the work that you've been doing, I know back when this first all started, we were talking about, you know, it was a multi-use facility, and that really hasn't come together. We also talked about the possibility of finding grants to help fund some of this. Has anything positive come about on grants or anything that you're aware of so far?
Well, not really so far.
Okay.
The plan the plan was necessary primarily, especially from the jail perspective,
Mhm.
for a presentation to USDA for the
Okay.
road.
All right.
That's kind of the step that was necessary,
Mhm.
and the assumption was that that would be an option for funding.
Right,
there.
yeah.
As far as the other recipients, the cities and so forth, the items that will be goals and objectives, the fact that it's in the plan is generally positive for various grants that become available when they become available. Because many of these grants say that, well, if you have this identified as a priority, then if the county has that, and,
Mhm.
you know, there's something in, it's, there's a project they want that's been listed and grants become available, that increases the chances of getting the grant.
Yeah.
But no, we haven't lined up any grants
Okay,
yet
yeah,
for
yeah.
specific projects.
So, how much, I guess, to the end of this process, how much on down the road is that? A year from now, 2 years from
Well,
now?
once this is finalized, you know, the plan will be available for that purpose. And then it's just, you know, recently, the past several years, especially since the pandemic, you know, the state of Illinois keeps coming up with more money.
Mhm.
Where it's coming from, I don't know, but they keep coming up with more money.
Mhm.
So it's, you know, the plan itself will not, you know, trigger money coming,
Right.
but when money becomes available,
Mhm.
the plan will help to increase the points that you get for various types of grants. It's not a guarantee, but most grants, it helps, that you've done an analysis and if this is something that is a priority for your community.
So after you get done doing whatever you do, you send it on to USDA,
Yes,
and then it would be up to us to contact them to, as far as fund, see if there's available funding, or, I'm not sure how that all works.
well, well, unless something changes dramatically, there's definitely available funding, at least of a loan sort.
Right, okay.
And our, office will help with that in our area. But, so, yeah, so we'll send it to them, and then,
Well, I'm just curious, if it's gonna be a year or 2 years from now, obviously with rising interest rates,
yes.
today, we've got 4.3 locked in for 10 million, but USDA, a year or two from now, might be 6%.
Yeah, they might, and that, the plan will still be of use, but it may not be directly of use for USDA, but hopefully,
Okay.
it will be, well, it's definitely of use to identify priorities, but hopefully it will help to secure maybe, 3% instead of 4.35. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
You could, and it also means that once the process is done, you send it to USDA, then Josh would proceed with coming up with the loan, or the application to USDA. Now, that process would take possibly a year.
That they said since it has to go to since it's so large, it's go to national, it was running about a year on that process for them to approve it national. Last time I
That's
asked.
once we get done with this process,
Okay.
just to
But you have to have
clarify.
this report done first before you can even apply.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, guys. You're certainly welcome to hang around, or, if you need to split, you can split, either way, whatever you're comfortable with. You're certainly invited to stay. Okay, the next item is resolution authorizing chairman to execute a deed of conveyance to the city of Paris on said parcel. Property address is 622 Vance in Paris, Illinois. That's just a standard. They want to take over some of the delinquent tax property, and so that's what this is.
Oh, City of Paris is. okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
I'll make that motion.
okay. Carl moves and Andy seconds. We need a roll call, please.
Brunner,
Yes.
Ellis.
Yes.
Farnum.
Yes.
Lawton.
Yes.
Ludington.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Likewise, we have a resolution authorizing conveyance to the city of Paris on said parcel. Property address is 408 South Austin, and it's the same conditions. Carl moves, Andy seconds. Any other questions? Mr. Clerk?
Brunner,
Yes.
Ellis.
Yes.
Farnum.
Yes.
Lawton.
Yes.
Ludington.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
And they are both approved. Next, we have accept renewal of group health insurance with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois beginning October 1st of this year through September 30th of '23. Andy?
Yeah, I'd like to change that to not to exceed 2.1%. That's what we're at right now.
Right.
It's 2.1, and I think they possibly indicated they might be able to come back with something a little smaller than that. So go ahead and accept nothing to exceed 2.1 at this point.
Which is what we currently are at. What they're looking at is maybe improving the condition for the largest portion of that policy, where most of the folks are on, to see if we can get it down just a little bit more. That makes, I know it's only a couple bucks here and there, but we should look for a couple of bucks here and there. So, I mean, 2.1 is good.
Pretty good
So,
compared to the
Brandon.
previous years.
By doing it now, we're not trying to rush things, but it does give, we're usually really rushed
Against the gun.
in the office trying to get everything done and everything signed, and this gives Augie and his staff a little bit more time to get everything taken care of. So what's your pleasure? A motion to approve? Dan moves. Andy seconds. Do we need a roll call on that?
Sure, let's do that. Ready?
Yeah,
All right.
go for it.
Brunner,
Yes.
Ellis.
Yes.
Farnum.
Yes.
Lawton.
Yes.
Ludington. Patrick.
Yes.
It is approved. Thank you, Andy.
I've done a little quick one.
Okay, petition for the reappointment of Kevin Key, trustee of the Brockton Community Fire Protection District for the term expiring the first Monday in May of '25. My gosh. Carl moves. Russ seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye, or do we need a roll call?
Well, let's do a roll call.
Okay, because I knew we had a petition on that.
Yeah. Brunner.
Yes.
Ellis.
Yes.
Farnum.
Yes.
Lawton.
Yes.
Ludington.
Yes.
Patrick.
He is, Kevin is reappointed. Reappoint Ron Symington, trustee, North Fork Conservancy District for the term of August of '22 to August of '27. Hope we're around to see '27. At any rate, are there any questions? I know occasionally you want to know why we're involved with the Conservancy District, but it's just our portion of the board, since part of the River Conservancy District includes part of Edgar County. Motion? Russ moves. Carl seconds. Do we need a roll call on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. He is reappointed. Next, we're gonna look at reappointing David Wright and Donna Veeder to the Edgar County Housing Board of Commissioners with the term beginning August 1st of '22 and expiring August 1st of '26. Any questions about that? They've been solid board members. This will be Donna's second term, so,
Dave's been there for a long time.
oh yeah, I mean, longer than you and I've been around. Well, not you maybe, but as board members. A motion to approve? Carl moves. Andy seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. They are reappointed. Next, we've got Carl Marshall, who's agreed to go on the board to finish out the term, the expiring term. Well, no, it's not. I guess, is it an expiring term?
Yeah, Betty McCoskey's retiring.
Okay. Well, anyway, his
Gonna
term
take
would
that.
go August 1st of '22 to August 1st of '26. And I don't know whether you guys all know Carl, but he's a fine man, and
Yes, yeah.
I think he'd be a nice addition to that board. Motion to approve. Dan moves. Russ seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay. Next, the Kiwanis Honeybee Committee would like to use the courthouse lawn during the Honeybee Festival from 5 p.m. on Wednesday, the 21st of September, until Sunday evening on the 25th of September. I got, before we talk, is this okay with you, Sheriff? Yep. Okay, I just want to make sure you'd had been touched base on, and because we kind of jointly kind of do this. So a motion to approve that request. Russ moves. Andy seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The request is approved. Next, we want to authorize final bid documents and advertise for bids for the courthouse roof system. Andy, do you want to have any comments on that?
I mean, it's basically the bids, or they estimated came in between 1.2 and 1.7.
Right.
So somewhere in there is what they anticipate.
But they'll lock down better as we go. Core will help when they're doing the final bid documents. And that's basically drawings, make sure we're set. It's gonna take a month or so, so we need to get going, because my gosh, it's gonna be September, and we need to get that bid so we can have a spring or construction.
Start.
And this is a good time. Nothing's a good time with prices the way they are, but we'll get a better deal bidding it now than we would waiting till spring. Okay, motion to approve the bid prep and bidding on it. Andy moves, Russ seconds. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? All right. Augie, under office holders, did you have some comments that you wish to make? Or I can come back to you.
Yeah, come back around to me.
Okay, Josh, anything from the highway department? Adam, anything from Horizon? Okay, Tom?
Our taxiway resurfacing project is moving along nicely. Line stabilization's been performed. About 12 inches of rock has been added. They're finishing the drain work today and will blacktop next week. Also, Lisa pointed out and mentioned, thank you for mentioning, our new highway signs are up.
That's good, because the old ones were getting pretty
When we
bad.
took them down, they're worse than you can imagine.
The one that was like 30 feet up in the air?
Yes.
That one?
Yes.
Okay. The
Any
state
other-
still has theirs, don't they?
Yes.
Out on the highway.
Anything else of Tom?
No.
Angie, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good.
Nothing to report today.
Okay, any questions of Ange?
I saw we had an expense for carpet.
Yeah, that would be,
My
Your
office.
office.
And that was out of,
those funds that we get from the insurance
yeah.
company. Okay, Sheriff?
Nothing major, nope.
Do you have anything on the courthouse? Nothing?
Did, yeah, I was getting ready to say, Andy brought up that there was a leak in the judge's office, or
Yeah.
up there.
And I checked out everything on the inside, there's nothing inside to get to anything up there above that ceiling, so we're gonna have someone come in with a lift on the outside and get up there and see what's going on, because we're a large, tall ladder, but, that ain't me.
Yeah.
It's not that tall.
It's a long way out. I thought it was interesting in the in the architect's report, he said there's a lot of open seams on top of some of the stone. I'm wondering, is it raining down? I don't know.
Well, I think that one leak, didn't we kind of think maybe it was the wind, the rain come out of the south or something, and kind of went back up, more
Blew it back
blow.
up under.
There's
That's
some
real possible.
smaller windows above these judges area and Marty's office windows. There's some smaller ones, and we looked at that, and I looked up there as good as I could. One of those small ones looks, like the frame is messed up on it. I don't know if, when we get a hard rain, if that's where it's getting in. But it's the main one in Judge Isaacs' office now, and then if it rains really hard, we get some coming in Marty's office.
Maybe that's something we need to look at, because it,
It won't make it till next year.
yeah, that's what they're saying.
Not without a lot of damage.
I mean, that goes along with the roof. I don't know where we stand on, I know we talked a little bit about, we're in the process of getting estimates on the roof, because the roof's getting pretty bad.
Yeah, well, that's what we just approved to get all that started, so sometime next year, we anticipate the roof will be replaced, but in the meantime, we gotta do something about that. I mean, who would we get a hold of to look at something like that? Your local roofer.
Yeah,
I don't think
Thing is, I'm
somebody
not
like
sure.
that, somebody's got access to a lift, I don't know.
Well, you could check with John, he might know. If he can't do it, he might be able to suggest somebody who could.
Thing is, I don't know if it's a roofing issue.
Well, but he'd at least have a lift,
Okay.
tell him we need to figure it out. We don't know whether it's a roof or, we don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
We want-
it's just getting worse, so.
Do we want the sheriff or Ray to get a hold of them, or
I can do that.
can you guys, when you guys get a hold of John and
Sure.
have him come, we would like for him to come up and see if we can figure out what the issue is and get it taken care of.
And, one other thing, when we're talking to Josh knows about this, we had a meeting with Central Good Stuff the other day about doing the new HVAC system, and I talked with Andy about this, we have before, about the previous HVAC we put in, we didn't put any heat or air down in the basement. So we talked about possibly with this project, maybe adding a couple of units down there, just so if the boiler goes down, we've got some type of heat down there, if that's a possibility to add on to this project. They've got the availability and within the old
courthouse?
system.
Yes.
Courthouse.
Okay.
The old system has the capacity to add a couple of units down there,
It's true.
so we talked
We
about this.
cannot add it. Now, what you could do
It's
is
just
make
do
a
it.
separate agreement with them, Andy,
Okay.
or, because if we mess with that federal, or the state grant at all,
It changes.
it'll take another year to get it through, so.
We can make it not part of the.
Right, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
is that we can't, but we can talk to them. Josh can coordinate that with you guys, and then we can come up with some figures and see what it's gonna cost.
I discussed that with them shortly after, well, I think it was the first winter we used that system, and they were gonna get back with me with a quote. And if you remember, we went down.
We never did hear
We
back.
never did hear back from them, and anyway, but
'Cause it's
They're aware
Sycamore
of
or
it.
Smart One.
that would, it's Sycamore.
Okay.
Would be the ones doing it.
Okay.
And it's really, it's not a difficult and excessively expensive, because on that manifold that all the units that we put in operate, there were 2 or 3 ports left. We thought, well, they
Yeah, we
said-
need to deal directly with Sycamore rather than,
Put the units
Yeah.
in, that's to be ready to go.
okay?
But you do need something down there for the, when you're not, when the boiler's not on, it's cold out.
Right, well, anything below, it has to get below 40 degrees before the boiler even kicks on, and if the boiler would go out for a few days for some reason, I mean, we need some kind of backup there. I mean, just in case.
Does anybody on the board object to us checking this out and see where we're at on this? Okay. Andy, you and Josh and Ray can kind of coordinate that, make sure the sheriff knows what's going on.
I have one other thing, when we're talking about Kiwanis being up here, they have also approached me about getting an electrician to update the electrical around the courthouse. And they would cover that cost, it wouldn't be on us, they would, because with all the RVs and things you get nowadays, they would like to update that where an RV could plug into these electrical. And I don't know where you guys stand on upgrading that. I think it does need to be done.
It's free.
They're gonna pay for it.
For us, isn't it?
Right.
We'll leave it up to you and the sheriff and Andy. Okay?
I like that word, free. Probably gonna cost $2 to do this.
Because I know when Shriners are up here, they have issues with tripping breakers and things like that, and that would possibly help that situation also.
That system's pretty old.
It is.
It's been around
It is.
for
It needs
30
to be
years.
out. So,
Jim Bennett's the one that I think he put.
he's the one they
installed it.
approached about this also.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe
Well, he's the one that put all that in back, that's what I
A long
remember.
time ago, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I
Augie,
have.
did you have a question?
Well, just to continue that for a second, the monthly cost to have that courthouse, we call it the courthouse meter, it runs about $35, $38 a month just to have that out there. And then when the Kiwanis Huntington Committee uses that, I think that monthly, for that month, the bill might go to $85, $90. So that's just a FYI. And so maybe updating that might make that more efficient. I don't know much about electricity, but that's what it costs. Or go up, like everything else.
They want to upgrade it so they can plug in bigger stuff.
Well, that's the
The
honeybee, that's the only time that really there's a big event up here anymore, Shrine, they're out at the fair.
They put a few lights in Christmas time.
Yeah.
That's about it.
And that's it.
Does farmer's market, do they plug into any of that?
I don't know that any of them use it at
I
all.
don't think so.
Well, sometimes they have a box.
Yeah.
They have a freezer with meat. Well, probably the only one that plug in.
Okay? Thank you, Ray.
Sure.
By the way, I don't think anybody said thank you for what you did out at ESDA. After so many years of hoping that would get done, we appreciate what you do around here.
No problem.
Thank you.
I think almost all appreciates all your help too. They really do.
Augie, we'll circle back to you, bud.
Yeah, I had a note here to remind the board that our existing COVID leave policy is basically expires in July. And whether or not we want to continue that, that would be a topic of discussion maybe at the next study session, or now. But that was one of the notes that I had. The other one is mileage has gone up from 58.5 cents to 62.5 cents. So for this month, when you're doing your report, whatever meeting or mileage that you did, you may have both June and July on here. So if you designated the dates, we can go back and figure out at what rate you get reimbursed for. But going forward now, it'll be 62.5 cents. I'm down one employee. Tammy resigned to go take another job within the county. She worked for the Public Defender's Office. She's still a county employee. So that's going to put a little extra burden on us work-wise. So we'll do the best we can with everything that goes on in our office. So we appreciate your patience and your cooperation till we find a replacement. Real estate taxes, we are just about ready to cross the finish line with our portion of that. We're waiting on a few municipalities to get back to us to verify their levy request. And then we're going to do a final check on all the different sections, the regular levies, the drainage ditches, railroads. But I'm anticipating by this Friday we should be done. And then basically we hand it off to the treasurer's office, and then Don, usually he likes 10 business days to review everything and whatever he does and prints the bills. So that's nearing completion. And the election deadline for mail-in ballots was yesterday. So today, Liberty Systems they may be here now as we speak, but they're coming today to close out and do all the final counts and input that information into the server. So we'll be able to put that to bed. So, questions for me? Thank you, sir.
As you might note, Don is not here. You've got your cash flow statement, the single page. Take it that you've all taken a look at that, or at least perused it. It's fairly self-explanatory. Some of our levied funds there at the bottom, you notice that we're running out of funds, but we have enough to cover those out of the general fund for the time being. So, in general, we have all the funds together. The 800 in general funds has about $4.7 million in them at this point. At any rate, any questions about that? You also have a fund status for Fund 100, and we're proceeding along well. The state has been very diligent about making sure that our payments are here. You go to the last page, remember we're about 7 months into the year, but remember that 3 of the months, because we're on accrual basis, that we have not received any funds. The first 3, we're always 3 months behind until the end of the year with funds. And those add up to about 1.4 million between property tax and what we have to stand to receive from the state of Illinois. So we're in pretty good shape there. Take a look at it. If you have any questions, give me a call, or maybe we can sit down and talk about it a little bit more at a study session. Any other questions? Is there a need for a closed session on any personnel or any issues that we need to talk about in private? Hearing none. Is there anything else to come before the board? I guess we should, no, I don't want to hear from it now. Okay, Dan, cat report, cat man.
I talked to Amber yesterday, Linda's been out with COVID, I think she comes back today, I think, so Amber's been a little bit overworked, but she said everything's going well, so I think she'll be glad to have Linda back.
Okay,
Cats are doing fine.
glad to hear that. Any questions of Dan? Andy, do you have much that we haven't already talked about? Oh, what about the jail, guys? Where are we at on some of the work, the steel work that was gonna be
Still
done?
waiting for them to keep finishing up. Got a little bit done since we had our meeting the other day. Eric had to come in and refit some stuff. I went for him to come back in and start building.
So Larry's been there?
Yeah, he was there today.
Okay.
We had the sheriff's committee meeting. We was out there, he was in here, and then he called me before he left.
How many inmates do you have?
I'm thinking there's like 27 today. We was up in the 30s there a couple of weeks ago.
Just wondered.
Okay. Bill?
Nope.
Russ? Carl?
I would like to have a sheriff's committee meeting next week, so we can talk more about the jail and kind of start finalizing things, because the architects indicated that we're getting to the point close that they gotta know what they're gonna be doing, what we're wanting and what to deal with, so they can move forward. And, you know, you indicated that by the 1st September, we'll have some architects hired, hopefully.
Hopefully.
And, but we need to start working on that to get that
And we need to hone in
right.
on jail site to make sure
Right.
also.
So we need,
Augie, can
Set something
you
up
remind
with
me
you.
about that? So,
Yes.
and does there, well, you don't have your calendar here, Jeff, but we'll be checking with you to
because
see
in the
what.
following week's fair week, so that's not a good week.
Yeah,
So we need
that
to
week's
get,
out.
so we need to get started on it next week.
Sounds good. It'd be a working
Right.
meeting.
Yep.
Okay. So we'll all, if you'd help us coordinate that.
Let me know.
Appreciate it, yes.
Do you have any idea, just no date yet?
No.
Okay.
I'm thinking just off the top of my head, would Thursday work for you guys?
How about you, Andy?
Morning, afternoon.
Morning sometime.
Okay, yeah.
Highway Department, 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock? What works?
Sounds good. If I get over and see something different, I'll let all you know.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Would you say 9 or 10?
Either.
He said no.
We have to split the difference. 9's fine with me, or 10, whatever you guys want to do. Can you, Josh, make sure you mark that down so we're set on that? Lisa, oh, go
One more
ahead.
thing. The building committee, I know the annex building, that's a concern. I know the architect kind of indicated it's getting down to the end of its life.
Yep.
You know. We may need to, the building committee needs to meet and go over there, because based on everything, I think we need to try to extend that as far out as we can. So we need to take a look at, you know, is there some issues that need to be addressed so we can prolong the life because of.
You know, maybe deal with the fact that maybe since we have a lease that's available, maybe looking at the possibility of leasing a place. I mean, it's available. I mean,
So, you know, we need to.
one way or the other.
Because, you know, we've got the jail project, obviously that's a big project. You know, we've got the roof, 1.7, potentially $1.5 million. The elevator here, you know, that's a project that in the near future, something's gonna have to be done. We need to be looking at that to see what costs are gonna be, how we can go about doing that. And like I say, the annex, you know, a month ago, they indicated that if we were going to build a building, $2 million. Yesterday, he mentioned $3 million. So, you know, we've got a lot of expensive projects, but I think we need to look at that and, because I know there's a few issues over there, but we need to deal with them and take care of.
One of the big ones is plumbing.
Right.
I mean, and that's a major deal.
So we need to get on that.
Ray?
I could add something to that on the plumbing over there. We had severe backup of the sewer system there, I don't know, a year ago or so. We got it going again, when they ran a camera down in there, it's bad. I mean, it's terrible, and the only way to fix it right is you're gonna have to saw cut the concrete up from the front to the back of the building and redo the whole thing, and you're talking about an expensive project if you have to do that. So that's one of the issues over
But we
there.
need to address those issues.
That's a major issue.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
okay,
That's-
we'll set up, what do you wanna try to do, a building committee meeting where we look around next week, or do you wanna wait till the first week in August?
No.
Oh, you said first of August? You said next, they said next week.
Next week, or we'd have to wait till the first part of August?
Yeah.
That's our
Let's see if we can
choice.
schedule a meeting.
Yeah.
We can talk after the meeting, come up with a time.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you, Carl. Lisa?
Yes, 3 items. Summer meal program, you know, we heard a report from Stacy on Monday. I received a call from somebody from Kiwanis wanting to donate to the program. And so I just gave them each other's phone number and said, work with it. We're the backstop. Anything you can get ahead of us would be great. Also had a nice long conversation with Amanda Miner yesterday, brainstorming about how we could handle it, how they could handle it next year. I said, we're not into the operations of it. We're not into who manages the program, whose 501c3 they're using. We just need to know if they're going to do it again, and just tell us about it. So we're just the fiscal, if they need the assistance. We're not in on any of the rest of the activity. Paycom is an HR and payroll software that some of us are going to take a look at on a Zoom call on Friday, a demo. You know, we've had conversation about automating some of the features of what staff are doing now. And with staffing changes, this is an excellent time to look at it. Paycom was one of the companies that some of our peers and other counties use. There are others that we can take a look at as well. So we'll start exploring that. I have worked on a draft for the wind ordinance and added quite a bit of language that doesn't necessarily change what we've had as our policy, but it definitely tightens a lot of it. And a lot of it I got from Clark County's ordinance, and some of it I also am taking from our solar ordinance. So Russ, I guess you and I need to review it, and I really want your input, Jeff. So I'll be getting with the two of you to see when we can work that out.
What time is the meeting with
Noon.
Noon?
And it's a Zoom call. It will be in the annex in the conference room, and Ross will set it up.
Okay.
And if I am not there in person, I will be there via Zoom.
Okay.
And you and I need to talk about HR handbook and getting the group together, but kind of needed to do this Paycom meeting first so that we would have something to discuss with others. And that's it. And Jeff, could you and I talk for a couple minutes afterwards? There's some suspicious activity in the northeast quadrant of the county, not just a township, a whole quadrant.
Did you want to say anything about the application we got in the check for solar?
We did receive our first application for a solar project. It's around 40 acres. Dina has the check and 6 copies of the application over in the safe in the annex, and I need to look at that, and so now I have to figure out how we go about analyzing and approving.
We'll go ahead and make a deposit, since that's not non-refundable, into the general fund. And then whatever you decide, that money could be available if you need anything looked at special,
Yeah.
okay? I imagine we should probably run it by the state's attorney, just to take a look at the documentation, so in
And
case
then-
there's a flaw.
Yeah, and then maybe the state's attorney would tell us that we need to seek a more specialized opinion.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Is there a timeline in the ordinance, like, once we receive it, that we have to, like 60 days or?
Not that I would intentionally drag my feet, but no, there isn't a number in
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I think we just have to start our due diligence and go from there.
The timeline is when they have to start. They have to have it going within a year, I
So we can't drag our feet.
believe. Right.
Have you seen the application or anything? So, you know,
I
I
need
mean,
to
is
get
there
it.
certain criteria they gotta meet in that to see if it
A lot.
goes along with what our ordinance is? Okay.
And that's, the attorney's opinion will be based on the ordinance only. They're not gonna give you something outside of the ordinance. Well, you should have done this, or you should have.
Yeah.
That's what we're operating on, is the ordinance that we have in place.
So do we have a committee that looks into that, or just the board does?
Well, no.
So the board, Lisa's gonna vet it and then bring it to us,
Okay.
and we can ask questions. But you have to have a pretty good reason not to accept the application.
There'd have to be something glaring that they say, no, we're not gonna follow your drainage
Right.
Yeah.
rules.
So,
And I'll say thanks for the 10,000.
Additionally, we need to talk about, like you said, HR, but there are several openings in departments that we need to look at and get back to the board on how we propose to work with the elected officials to make sure everything gets filled, and that we maybe unencumber some of the offices and consolidate some duties, okay? And we do need to get the employee handbook taken care of.
And to my knowledge, the only thing that we were needing, Augie, on the employee handbook was to take a look at the language that's in it compared to what Tim Gilbert had provided. As far as
We may have to
vacation
do that,
policy.
I don't know. You pretty much got your day filled, don't you, every day?
Yeah, we'll look at it, see
Okay.
where we are.
All right.
I think that was the only thing we had left. It's been a while
We'll
since
look
we
at it, see
visited
where we
that.
are.
Okay, anything else? Okay, motion to adjourn. Andy moves, Russ seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. We're adjourned. That's for Dan.